All right, YouTube. It's Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. I got a topic that's kind of dear to me and I'm interested in, which is Africans and Pan Africanists have an attitude and a problem with black people who don't identify as African. Now, the term African American started in the early 80s or mid 80s with Jesse Jackson. You know what I mean? Before then, we was ninja, Negro, colored folk, all of that. So the Africans that come over here and be around us now only started having access to coming over here and being around us after the civil rights movement. And after the civil rights movement, they came over here and they was getting scholarships that foundational black Americans have fought for and strived for. And they amalgamated among us, but they still looked down on us. They still thought that because they were from Africa, they was better than us. A lot of them, not all of them. You know, they even have a name similar to Ninja Africa called Akata, you know, or they call us Yankees. You know what I mean? But the problem that I have with them is it's disingenuous. Like we like to call each other kings and queens and things of that nature, but you have to realize no kings or queens got off slave ships. It was kings and queens that sold most of us into the situation over here in North America. We was, no kings and queens was getting off those ships. It was poor people and the conquered people and the same type of oppressed people we are now. But we like to fantasize and romanticize about Africa. How many of you have a great grandparent that you know from Africa? We are so disconnected from them at this point. You know what I mean? We have become a hybrid of Europeans, Native Americans, Africans. We have engulfed the whole genetic pool into what we call the black community. You know what I mean? So we have uh, highlighted and took the best from every culture and made what you see in us. That's why we the most interesting, entertaining people on the planet. But then even if you like to look at the theological perspective, God said he was going to make a new people. That's what he told the Christians. He said, I'm going to make a new people. Because ain't no people like black Americans with this color brown been on the planet ever. You're only going to find us here. So we like to romanticize about Egypt and Africa and things that are reminiscent of the old days. But right now we're in the present. Right now we're dealing with AI. You know what I mean? Artificial intelligence. We're dealing with algorithms. You know what I mean? We're dealing with global conflicts, food shortages, monopolization by companies. And at the same time, we're being fed on by other groups, other nationalities, other people. When you look at what's going on in New York and how they're dumping all of those immigrants by the thousands into that city, draining the resources for the inhabitants that was already there, which was us. See, they like to come among us, live among us, then overcome us. That's why you see, even with the Puerto Ricans, they want to claim hip hop. They want to say, yeah, we were there, we co created hip hop. But I digressed. Today's reaction video is to what Cameron said. I'm going to show you what O'Shea Duke Jackson said on it, which is a man's perspective. And then I'm going to go over and I'm going to show you what Dana with the data said. So before I start, This is for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act. It's for educational purpose and entertainment purposes. Let's look at Cameron first.
It's catching a lot of heat from the Pan Africans. Let's check out what he said.
Listen, man. Hey,
I'm
man.
looking at my license. It doesn't have color on it though. It doesn't.
Cause your face is the color now. What year did you get your license?
Um,
I don't know. Different states have different
what
stuff.
year?
We don't even gotta go into the license. When you go fill out a test when you're in school and they ask you this, down, and third, this, that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be totally honest.
This is what your dishwasher looks like after 1 year. It's a colony of billions of mold and bacteria living deep inside your dishwasher that not only make your dishes cloudy and dirty, but can cause serious health issues.
With you, and I know we got to get back to our topics. We already a few minutes in. I'd rather feeling black than African American because Africans don't even fuck with us.
Wow.
Because they don't.
And Americans do?
Well, you're American, Mace. You're born in America. When you go to the Olympics, and when I say African American, you go over there, they call us Yankees and all that. They f with us, but we're not from the motherland. We're from America. So I'd rather say I'm a black American. When we go to the Olympics as a country, and somebody black is fighting from the United States, you don't say African American. You say American. You don't even put a color on it. It's an American fighter fighting a European fighter, or China or Japanese or anything. You're known in the Olympics as an American. It doesn't matter what color you are. You're an American fighting against somebody from Cameroon or Senegal, whatever. The point being is they don't categorize it when it's world competition, but when it's other shit, it needs to be categorized. So I consider myself a black American. I don't consider myself African American. And shout out to all my in Africa. Much love. But y'all don't consider us real Africans. Y'all don't.
This is very interesting. Cameron is saying that he doesn't consider himself to be African. He identifies as being black. He did give a shout out to the Africans. He just considers himself not to be one. And he says why. Africans don't mess with us. This sounds very familiar. It sounds like Yvette Carnell in Tone Talks. It also sounds like Tariq Nasheed in the hashtag FBA, Foundational Black Americans. Now, there was a brother on YouTube, shout out to the brother, we'll put his name in the video. He said something similar.
Now, mind you, I think this brother O'Shea Du Jackson is like got African heritage or whatever. I think he's a tether because they love to bring up Tariq. You know what I mean? They love to bring up Tariq when they coined the phrase foundational black Americans. And they want to make it about Tariq like he just got some cult following. But you look at the logic behind what Tariq is saying in the statement, foundational black Americans. We are the foundation of what you see as black America. We've been here. You know what I mean? We the ones that went through slavery, civil rights, Jim Crow. You know what I mean? Oppression. You know what I mean? And now we are the most watched and admired and also hated people on the planet. Us as an individual group, not as Africans. They don't get the flack we get. Africans don't.
Similar to this about when he identifies as being black and not necessarily African, he gets a lot of hatred for that.
FBA, a lot of hate for foundational Black Americans such as myself, from Pan Africans, from other people, and I'm here to talk about that briefly. So, let me get an analogy one time, right? I see the sky behind me, right? If somebody walks up to me today and says, "Hey, the sky is red," I'm not gonna get hype, right? I'm not gonna start puffing my chest out and start explaining. I'm gonna just simply tell them, nah, the sky is not red. Look at it, right? So I use that analogy because I want to bring that full circle when it comes to this FBA African thing. And shout out to all the Africans, man. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to the Caribbeans, Africa. Shout out to everybody. We love. I got love for everybody. I got a big uh, tattoo of Africa on my chest, man. So we pay homage and we pay respect, right? But as soon as I say I'm FBA, people start puffing their chest out. They get mad. They call me dumb, stupid. These are Pan Africans, mind you. These are supposed to be scholars and people who.
See, because what the Pan Africanist wants to do, along with the Africans, is psychologically colonialize us. You know what I mean? They say that we're African because of them, but we have no connections to the homeland. So anything we got to do that deals with Africa, we have to go through a Pan Africanist or an African because we have no connections to there. So of course they want to co-opt our movement, co-opt our talents, and bring about the fact that we have resemblances, but we're not the same. And we have to stop allowing people to come among us and usurp our identities and our talents and take them and claim them for their own. And that includes Africans.
Are intelligent. As soon as I say I'm FBA, or as soon as I take a stance as a foundational Black American, people get very angry. They get upset, angry. They call me names. They call us names, right? And it's really funny to me because as somebody that's an intellectual or somebody that's intelligent, you should simply say, "Hey, you're not." You should be able to say, "Hey, you're not foundational Black American."
Then Tariq Nasheed had a conversation with a lady on the Twitter space from Ethiopia. And Tariq Nasheed made it very clear in this clip that Africans, when they come to America, they take a lot of stuff from the African American community, but they don't necessarily give anything. They isolate themselves from us. And so, because of that, there's a friction.
Stereotyping everyone.
Man,
Because I no, wait a second, please. Um, I personally, I just told you I support your work, right? I just told you in my family, everyone has a poster of Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther. I think, I mean, in my family, though, you see, but you're generalizing, saying that we hate you, and I think creating.
The best way to keep your tires healthy. We're using the smart air pumps to inflate all these tires called the Air Moto. This
Not saying you all do, but I'm saying generally there's a lot of contempt with a lot of people from your culture when they get here. And they set up their little enclaves and communities outside of us, and there's a narrative of stay away from the Jabids, the Abids, and the Jarirs. And that's the
What does
reality.
that mean? What does that mean?
Ma'am, there's a reason why the Ethiopians come over here and set up their own little enclaves in their communities where they don't share their resources with us. Now, they get resources from us. We'll patronize their businesses in the whole 9 yards. But they make sure that money doesn't trickle back into Black society, foundational Black American society. They set up their own churches, their own schools, so that money can funnel over to them. But any type of Black program that we done fought for, they'll be first in line with that. You understand?
So, guys, this is something that has to always be discussed because a lot of people are on both sides of the fence. And I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been a person that has very strong African American leanings because I am. And I was one of those people that didn't like discussing anything with Africans and then found myself moving to Africa. But I can see both sides of the argument. I can also see Africans saying that African Americans don't deal with them. And because of that, they stay to their sides. Points are valid, and I get it. I understand those points. And people on Cameron's side or people on other sides, I can respect their arguments. And if they want to separate and stay, that's the issue. My problem is with the Pan Africans. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I see so many Pan Africans jump out at people on either side, like Nigerians who want to stay over there and African Americans who stay over there. And do you know what I see? I don't see Pan Africans really pushing anything that brings unity amongst the people that actually say they're Pan African. And that's the problem. The Pan Africans are having an issue with the development. Those people who proudly say they're Pan African and they want to see unity, you don't see it. Where are the conferences?
Pan Africanists, they want the black man in America to be subservient to Africans. I'm gonna say that again so the people in the back can hear me. The Pan Africanist wants the black man in America to be subservient, and a tool for Africans. After everything we fought for and died for us to be subservient to Africans or any other ethnic group is ridiculous. It's dangerous. It's unhealthy. So we got to take all things into consideration, especially reality. You know what I'm saying? When you hear somebody like Dr. Umar never got to school and always talking about you African, I can't stand for him to say, my Africans in Detroit. Ain't no, I mean, I see very few Africans in Detroit. Very few Africans. We got more Arabs than Africans, you know? But, and we got Koreans too, here in Detroit. A little bit of everything. But we are not allowing our culture and communities to be co-opted just because the immigrants have taken over being merchants. They're the salesmen, they're the merchants. So we have to do business with them because they have unity and they have a homeland that they're directly connected to. And they have a lot of help from the United States government who is willing to put any other ethnic group on top of us to crush our unity and our strength so that we could stop wanting reparations and other things that we're entitled to as being foundational black Americans, you know? Think about it.
And where are the developments and where are the other things, right? And see, the thing is that as people in the Pan African community, we're not developing as much as we should for those of us who say that we are on fire for the continent or on fire for black people. What you typically hear are people who talk like that, then beg for donations. I'm talking about you, Dr. Umar Johnson. You hear people who talk like that,
Shots
but they're
fired.
self aggrandizing and they're looking for their own benefit into Pan Africanism. And one of the reasons why Pan Africanism, in some ways, is failing, the reasons that you hear this, and I believe why Pan Africanism, in some aspects, can be failing because we have too many selfish people in the Pan African community. The people who are on either side of the road, what they're pretty much saying, Pan Africanism is a concept that doesn't really work. That's why there's a podcast on this channel with me and Dr. Ron O'Neill called Pan Africanism Without All the Romanticism. And the reality is those people who are saying that Pan Africanism this and Pan Africanism that, and your actions don't show it, you don't bridge the gap. Pan Africans have to be the ones that come up with the things that, like the business networking and the ideology.
Oh, black women. Y'all dropped the ball with that sister that was the president of Harvard named Gail. I'm finna pull up something on her. Her last name Kane or something like that. Oh, her name is Claudine Gay. Check it out. I'm finna show this to you.
To identifying the first. In 2021, Rufo's anti-CRT campaign ginned up enough conservative pressure against Nicole Hannah-Jones, the co-founder of the 1619 Project, that the University of North Carolina denied her tenure. Jones, by the way, had a Pulitzer Prize, a MacArthur Genius Grant, and support from the school's chancellor and faculty. No one who had held the position to which she was hired had ever before been denied tenure. But that history and her accomplishments were no match for the conservative pressure cooker. Hannah-Jones moved on. She's now chairing the Knight Chair of Race and Journalism at Howard University. Now, Christopher Rufo doesn't do it alone. He acknowledges that the highly coordinated campaign to force Claudine Gay to resign from Harvard was a three-pronged attack. That's what he told Politico's Ian Ward last week. Quote, "This really was a team effort that involved three primary points of leverage. First was the narrative leverage, and this was done primarily by me, Christopher Brunette, and Aaron Sabarium. Second was the financial leverage, which was led by Bill Ackman and other Harvard donors. And finally, there was the political leverage, which was really led by Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's masterful performance with Claudine Gay at her hearings. When you put those three elements together, narrative, financial, and political pressure, and you squeeze hard enough, you see the results that we got today, which was the resignation of America's most powerful academic leader," end quote. There it is, clear as day. Christopher Rufo's own words. Christopher Rufo and this crew of strange bedfellows helped to bring down the president of Harvard, not because of who she was or what she did, but to advance their own particular causes. And I want to go through those causes with you. There was a target on Claudine Gay's back since the war between Israel and Hamas triggered protests on college campuses, along with a surge in anti-Semitic and anti-Arab violence. And while these tensions exist on many university campuses, three university presidents in particular, Claudine Gay, Elizabeth McGill of the University of Pennsylvania, and Sally Kornbluth of MIT, were singled out for their responses to student reactions to the October 7th attack, specifically, and Israel-Palestinian tensions on campus more broadly. In December, they testified before the House of Representatives in hearings that were supposed to illuminate anti-Semitism on campus, but in reality, those hearings were a trap. And that's where Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik comes in. She asked Gay whether, quote, calling for the genocide of Jews violated Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment, end quote. All three presidents said in one way or another that it would depend on the context. This answer was widely condemned, deemed by experts to be legally correct but lacking in empathy. Penn's Elizabeth McGill resigned not long after the hearing. Sally Kornbluth of MIT is still in her post, and Claudine Gay lived to fight another day at Harvard, that is, until Christopher Rufo dispatched the next prong in his plan. Now, put a pin in that for a moment. I want to point out the irony of Elise Stefanik's political theater during that hearing.
Now, look, they asked the sister a loaded question. Now, she knows that her students have a First Amendment right of freedom of speech. So, at what point can you censor something they say? It would all be based on content. But see how they manipulated it? They wanted her to put herself in a situation where she took the rights of her students and people that look like her to be subservient to another group of people of another ethnicity to appease them. And it was so much in the news that was garbage that we didn't even realize that she was the first black president of Harvard. If you don't want to talk about academia and what's important.
Stefanik is an ardent supporter of Donald Trump, a man with a long history of using anti-Semitic tropes. He invited the anti-Semite Kanye West and the Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes to dine with him. He said that among the protesters who chanted "Jews will not replace us" through the streets of Charlottesville, there were some, quote, very fine people, end quote. And of late, he's been echoing Hitler in his campaign speeches. No matter how many times you say the word anti-Semitism, you are the company you keep. Okay, let's go back to Christopher Rufo. With the help of two conservative reporters, Christopher Brunette and Aaron Sabarium, Rufo started floating accusations that Claudine Gay plagiarized academic work. Those allegations went from Rufo's blog to the pages of conservative publications to mainstream publications like the New York Times. Harvard itself never accused Gay of plagiarism, but it did investigate the allegations and found that they are at worst instances of inadequate citation. They're not what the word plagiarism might make you think. Claudine Gay was not stealing anyone's ideas, nor was she presenting other people's ideas as her own. And Harvard did not conclude that any issues in her academic citations amounted to misconduct. And normally that would be the end of it. But here's possibly the ugliest part of this whole chapter. At America's universities, academics and speech and learning are not primary. Money is. Bill Ackman is an American billionaire hedge fund manager and a Harvard alum. Ackman started calling for Claudine Gay's resignation and threatening to pull his donations from the university over her response to the October 7th Hamas attack. He called on the university to release the names of students who signed a pro-Palestinian statement in order to get them blacklisted from future jobs, stating none of the companies which he controls will hire a student who had signed the statement, and nor should others. Ackman is active on X, formerly Twitter. According to The Guardian, in the past month alone, he's tweeted about Gay, Harvard, or both more than 100 times to his 1.3 million followers. On December 7th, Ackman suggested Dr. Gay was a diversity hire. He said in part, quote, "I learned from someone with first-person knowledge of the Harvard president's search that the committee would not consider a candidate who did not meet the DEI office's criteria." He added, "Shrinking the pool of candidates based on required race, gender, and or sexual orientation criteria is not the right approach to identifying the best leaders for our most prestigious universities. And it is also not good for those awarded the office of president who find themselves in a role that they would likely not have obtained were it not for a fat finger."
Now, they show him after they tried to trap her with the question. Now they saying she only got the job because of affirmative action. That's what they're saying. Look at the language. They're saying she only got it because of affirmative action. She became the president of Harvard, though.
On the scale, Ackman brought Stefanik and Rufo's allegations, anti-Semitism and diversity, together in another 400-word screed on X in which he takes aim at Harvard's DEI movement, saying that it is, quote, "the root cause of anti-Semitism at Harvard," end quote. There you have it. Diversity is anti-Semitism, or efforts to achieve diversity are anti-Semitism. Here are some more greatest hits from Ackman's rambling post. Quote, "DEI is racist because reverse racism is racism even if it's against white people." And quote, "Having a darker skin color, a less common sexual identity, and or being a woman doesn't make one necessarily oppressed or even disadvantaged." Ackman also says Claudine Gay should not remain as faculty at Harvard because of her, quote, "serious plagiarism issues." There's another academic, Neri Oxman, a tenured professor at MIT, who was accused of plagiarism this week. Business Insider published two investigations in which Oxman reportedly plagiarized parts of her 2010 doctoral dissertation at MIT. The allegations range from passages that were missing quotations for proper citations, similar to the accusations against Claudine Gay, to Oxman allegedly lifting full paragraphs from Wikipedia, which, if true, seems to be much worse than what Claudine Gay is accused of doing. After Business Insider's first report, Oxman apologized for the errors and said she would ask MIT to make any necessary corrections. So why do we care about Neri Oxman? Because Neri Oxman is the wife of Bill Ackman, who insisted that Claudine Gay resign over similar infractions. But to his wife's infractions, Bill Ackman said, quote, "Part of what makes Neri human is that she makes mistakes, owns up to them, and apologizes when appropriate," end quote. Bill Ackman's wife had imperfect citations in her Ivy League dissertation, and that was a mistake. Harvard's first black president, who must have been a diversity hire and hence substandard, had imperfect citations in her Ivy League dissertation, and now she's gone from the job. Oh, and if you're an MIT professor, watch your back, because now Bill Ackman says he's going to use his billions to review the work of all current MIT faculty. It's not clear yet. The story of Claudine Gay's resignation is about a lot of things, but it's not really about plagiarism, nor was it ever really about anti-Semitism. In a New York Times op-ed, Claudine Gay gave a warning to America, quote, "The campaign against me was about more than one university and one leader. This was merely a single skirmish in a broader war to unravel public faith in pillars of American society." She adds, "It's not lost on me that I make for an ideal canvas for projecting every identity about the generational and demographic changes unfolding on American campuses. A black woman selected to lead a storied institution."
The sister got very little support from the black community because we was preoccupied. You know what I mean? They was bombarding the internet with other stories. But if you see this video and you get to that part, look into the Claudine Gay story. Look into to what's going on with the sister and throw her some support wherever she's at. You know what I mean? And tell me what you think about how Tariq feel about being African. Cameron, I feel the same way. I'm not African. You know what I'm saying? I'm not African. You know? So, Santa to you out of Detroit. I remember, let me read this quote. Elijah Muhammad always said for the black man in America not to mix among other groups. You know what I mean? Not to mix among other groups. Because that would be the destruction of us and who we are and abort our evolution. Keep your head on the swivel. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace out of Detroit.